言いなさい。早く。体が細くて柔らかくて、女の人なんだなって。男の人が女の人を守りたくなる気持ち、わかるような気がしました。あなたはずるい。
So another week of Danmachi and another absolutely incredible episode. I think after last week's episode with being everything that it was, last week's episode was probably one of the best episodes of Danmachi just like in general so far. But I think they perfectly followed it up with another absolutely well-written, well-executed, really dire episode. Like one of the things that this episode specifically did so well was it really drove home just the direness of Bell and Ryu's situation, especially when facing the Juggernaut. It gave us and it gave them a moment of hope in leading down to floor 36 and actually giving them hope. And of course, what is there right before they're able to actually get there? The Juggernaut. So I'm going to talk about all that in just a moment, but really I think the incredibleness of the episode was just really, you know, over this season so far, it's really been a journey, and it's really been really well executed on how well Bell and Ryu have really grown, you know, towards each other. And also, you know, obviously, there is still a little hesitancy there, you know, at this point, kind of more from Bell's side, just because, you know, he not only has this respect for the gods, but he also has this respect for elves, and he knows that they're kind of like, I guess you could say like they're a step above like your standard human person. So he kind of has this image of what an elf is. So I don't think, you know, based on everything I saw this episode, I really think, you know, that this isn't a situation to where Bell or, you know, a similar character in his situation would not be willing to maybe take a step forward in their relationship, or just take advantage of that specific moment, which could be one of their last moments, potentially, you know, in the reality of the anime, not really, but if you're in that situation, it could be one of the last moments that you're going to spend, and it's for, you know, it's fortuitous for most folks to kind of like, you know, take advantage of that moment just to grow closer to someone before potentially, you know, you die, essentially. But, you know, for him in that moment, you know, because he holds the elves in such high regard, I don't even think he can fathom the fact that Ryu maybe could feel a certain way towards him, and could also want, you know, a certain event to occur during that situation that they were in, you know, when they were in that area of the Colosseum. So I just kind of like in this, you know, for most situations in Danmachi, I think Bell has a lot of lost opportunity, and I think that for the most part, he's kind of one of our, you know, normal dense MCs, one of our normal dense main characters that we typically get in anime, very tropistic, right? But I think in this specific moment, I think this was the first time that I was like, oh, they actually took a little extra time to write him a little better, you know, for him not to be so dumb and not really get it, but for him to really explain on maybe why he wouldn't take advantage of the situation. And again, it's just because of that difference level between him and Ryu, and not because of, you know, age or adventure level or experience, really just because of the race difference and just the fact that elves don't usually bond with anybody outside of their race. So it was one of those moments that I was like, okay, that I get, that is the best version of an MC not taking advantage of a situation like this, or, you know, characters not taking advantage of a situation like this that Danmachi has produced, in my opinion. Everything else about that situation, though, I really love. You know, again, this was both Ryu and both Bell, you know, both of them in a very vulnerable state. We found out that the area that was below the Colosseum with all the water and stuff, unfortunately, it didn't have any purifying or any special properties. It was just kind of like a waterway. But the good thing is we found out that there was really no monsters that were spawning there, so it was really like a small safe zone for them under the Colosseum, so that was a huge win for them. They were able to take that time to really, you know, get their clothes dry, you know, everything that happened. And, you know, at this point, we had Ryu kind of grilling Belle about why he saved her, and I think that his genuineness, just really comes across to Ryu full force and really takes her by surprise. I also really liked how the fact is there, no matter what situation didn't occur, there is attraction level there both ways. And I think it was definitely accentuated even more when it came to Belle, because I don't like he as a character finally realized what it was to protect a woman, or what it means for a man to protect a woman. And in this situation he is, when he got to finally hold Ryu because she kind of made him do it. He was kind of like holding her, and he's like, I never realized how small you are. And he kind of described it as small and petite and soft. And he was like, I finally get, like when someone says protect, he's like, I understand, because he just feels like more. He just feels larger. He just feels like he, in this situation, like he is the lion and she's the lioness. Still immensely gorgeous and powerful and everything else, but he's just a little more. So I really like that he addressed that, and obviously he got Ryu to be very, very embarrassed during that situation, and they shared a very intimate moment with each other. It didn't surpass anything, but it was still a very intimate moment. And I think, again, going back to the thing I said earlier about, elves and stuff, I think the way that they bond, because of the life that they live and everything, I think the way that they bond is different. So at this point, I kind of feel like Ryu is imprinted on our boy Belle, as she made it apparent later on of he's the most important. Belle is it for her, which is crazy because what is Belle gonna do with that kind of love later on down the line, assuming that they both make it out. Then we transition into their dire situation. They finally find a path. They have to leave the safe zone because Ryu kind of tells us as the viewer, she tells us hey, we can't stay here. We have no food. We can stay here as long as we want, but the reality is we have no food. So they eventually have to leave. They find the official path in the outer rings, and they find the path back down to try and get to the 36th floor. But of course, what's waiting for them, an anamorphed version of the Juggernaut, who has now been eating a lot of monsters. And one of the things that I was wondering if anybody can educate me in the comments is, the Juggernaut, from everything that's been told to us, is on a timer. And I'm assuming that the Juggernaut basically only exists until the dungeon has fully repaired itself. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But based on what we saw with the Estrella Familia, the Juggernaut is 100% on the timer, and then it just kind of disappears or just dies. It just dies off based on the dungeon's security system. So I wonder how far along we are in said timer for the Juggernaut to not exist anymore. And the next question I have is, because he's now basically evolving, the Juggernaut has been eating all these monsters and anamorphing himself into this new version of the Juggernaut. I'm wondering if that will put off the longevity of his existence. I wonder if he will have to be killed. He won't be able to just die based on the dungeon security system, because before we had a pure Juggernaut, and now we have this anamorphed version of one that's just been eating monsters. So I'm wondering kind of what's going to happen there. But regardless, they face Juggernaut. They get effed up. Belle gets really effed up as well, and he pushes Ryu out the way. He saves Ryu once again. Ryu reciprocates that. She saves him. Belle has a really, really awesome moment where he gets injured and he firebolts himself to heal, to make sure he's not bleeding out. And then we finish off with Ryu healing Belle, which I thought was a really cool moment too, but that expended all her mana, so she had to kind of take a nap. But then again, they share a moment where she was like, hey, hold me, as my last moment, just hold me kind of thing. And then we have Belle kind of stepping up and saying, okay, Papa's got to go to work. And that's kind of where we transition off into the next episode. So let me see if there's anything that I didn't cover specifically that I want to hit on. But overall, I think this episode was another 10 out of 10 episode. I think this was amazing. Some of the notes I wrote down was, I love that Ryu got flustered. It's not even a real word. I like how Ryu got flustered looking at Belle's body. I thought that was a really cool moment for her, just, kind of living in that moment. I think that was really cool. I like how Belle was obviously attracted to Ryu, just because she's petite and everything. I thought that was a really cool moment. I had a moment where I laughed a little bit about Belle just looking, after they got ready to go out to the, to go back into the floors. I like how he looked all ragged. He basically he just kind of he put on like a quarter of a shirt, a quarter pants, you know. I thought that was really cool. And then really, I already mentioned it, but I like how he did the firebolt for, on himself. But eventually, Belt's becoming a man, and hopefully they make it out of this situation. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. The questions I had, answer them if you can in the comments. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have nothing to say, just drop me an emoji down in the comments. Let me know you were here. Helps the engagement in the video out. I definitely would appreciate the support if you stopped by like a fart in the wind. So I'll see you guys next week for Danmachi episode 11. This has to be easily one of the best arcs that have happened so far in Danmachi, and I really love it. So let me know what you guys thought. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.